Ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the debate final after a year full of competition and interesting informations about various issues in Morocco and the whole world. Congratulations to all of you who stood before the podium and who are seeking in this new edition full of energy and knowledge. These debaters are going to debate about a topic which is current and right now, especially in the European countries. While hosting the World Cup, Qatar should respect the thoughts and the freedom of supporters and visitors. To give a small idea, everyone knows these days the LGBTQ+ community is trying to share their mentality and perspective of things to the world and influence the society. Or maybe there's just some people who want to enjoy some alcohol while watching the game. We will see what the debaters are offering to us today. So, please, let's welcome the first Science Math 3, and the Common Core 9. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you the best of luck, and the stage is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It truly is a saddening debate today as it marks the end of a journey. A journey free from hate and malevolence, yet full of passion. A journey full of ups and downs, yet free from regrets. And most importantly, a journey full of learnings. Because even though losses hold valuable teachings, wins also do. And today, I hope that a lot of learning will occur on both sides. It's also a saddening debate, as it shows that a large proportion of the human population is ready to forego their liberties for a promise of a bit more safety, material gains, or worse, entertainment. And this is a frightening diagnosis, as it prepares us for the downfall of modern human civilization. A civilization that was built upon these values and that will crumble as we are losing them at an alarming pace. In this day and age, Qatar clearly overstepped their boundaries by applying local laws to international visitors during an international event. Our position is this simple, and I will let my teammates dig deeper into this problematic while we analyze it together from a sociological dimension. And the problem we have now has nothing to do with these restrictions in themselves, but it has a lot to do with the consequences they will have on the collective mind of this society. When we prohibit a certain behavior and make it publicly and legally condemned, it creates some sort of legitimacy in attacking this certain group. Let's take as an example dressing modestly, which is one of the restrictions imposed, especially on women. This will create a huge wave of misogyny that could even lead to violence towards women, as the ignorant masses will think that it's their duty to apply the law. And if you don't believe me, just check the situation in Iran. It started in the same way. Or if any sort of affection publicly shown is prohibited, then a lot of people will think that it's okay for them to interfere at any given situation when they in fact have no legitimacy at all. And even worse, undermining the political freedom of thousands of fans will deeply, deeply wound their honor and integrity. So even if we suppose that these restrictions are somehow fair, the negative consequences and the conflicts they will spark will certainly be an inhuman, cruel, atrocious mess. Just like the situation of workers in Qatar, by the way, but this is not a subject I will dive into. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, if we are ready to forego one of the most important principles adopted by humankind just for some mere entertainment, then I'm truly apprehensive about our future as a species. If we can't draw the line, have clear positions and a strong value system, if we can't go beyond the herd and think for ourselves, if we can't challenge the status quo and defend our own political freedom, then I'm afraid this is the day where the unstoppable march of humanity will cease. Dear audience, is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? For us, there is no dilemma. Give me liberty or give me death.
Yes. I was always curious about why Al-Araqi school obliged us to wear the blouse. I always wanted to know why at a library I had to whisper. I always wanted to know why here in this debate I had to respect those rules the presenter just recited 5 minutes ago. And as you can see from what I'm debating, that I came to a realization that wherever I go, I had to and I was obliged to respect that place's rules. You don't agree with me? Ask Mr. Yunus. He's well cultured in this subject. Dear audience, juries, opponents, I am very honored to be here one more time, yet very sad for it to be the last. While hosting the World Cup, Qatar should respect the thoughts and the freedom of visitors and supporters. From what I understood during this debate, our opponents believe that I can right now just go and slap someone in the face because I want to, and because because the person I slapped should respect my freedom and my thoughts about slapping her. Don't get me wrong, I'm just trying to analyze it. Because this rule you just made should be applied in every situation, I believe. I think everyone here agree with me on how much this behavior is wrong, right? Yet, our opponents must have a pretty number of buts they want to say. You don't have to bother yourselves and POI me, I'm already going to suppose a few of them. Probably, but we're all talking about just thoughts, but this is not the freedom we were talking about. Buts and buts and buts. However, my butt is way more cool. Hear me out. But, do you actually have an idea about what Qatar imposed on those visitors? Probably not, because if you had, you would not be here defending such an absurd thing. But, I'm here to make things clear for you. How about we talk about those rules which you wholeheartedly disagree with, that are prohibiting behaviors you yourselves won't accept in your own country? Yes?
Does freedom include aggression?
Yes. According to a research article named A Code of Conduct for Tourists Visiting Qatar for the World Cup 2022, and due to our kindness, me and my team wanted to make first our opponents happy by reciting some rules Qatar wanted her people to respect towards the visitors. A tourist shall have the right to tourism. A tourist is entitled to the right to safety. A tourist must be treated without discrimination. A tourist as a spectator shall have the right to access the stadium, and the list goes on. However, your freedom stops when mine begins. Rule number 1, a tourist must avoid being involved in unlawful acts of sexual exploitation, sex trafficking, sex tourism, or sexual harassment. This is the freedom you crave for them? Rule number 2, a tourist is prohibited from consuming alcohol in stadiums or outside the specified areas. Rule number 3, homosexuality. Rule number 4, profanity. Rule number 5, taking people's pictures without their permission. Rule number 6, loud music and sounds. Rule number 7, not respecting places of worship. I really need to ask this one more time. Is this the freedom you crave for them to have? Please reflect your respect. Thank you.
Leaning into the afternoons, I cast my happiness towards the satisfied stadium, and like a draw in the heart of its arrow, I turned my face to the golden soam of glittering sheaves, of fair and frail and fluttering leaves, of a crowded stadium full of people, full of life, gathered around a field where grateful goals are about to be shot at. But that was it, when I started to feel my tears turn like the quiet drift, when all my grief flew from the rift. Visitors being denied entry for a simple act that reflects an individual thought, yet does not touch others by any means. Pretty sensitive, you would say. Pretty considerate, I would say. In the turbulent years since Qatar defeated liberal democracies such as Australia, Japan, South Korea, and the United States to grasp the hosting prize, the term sports washing has entered the lexicon. A rather imprecise concept, it in part describes how countries with lamentable human rights records, such as Qatar, abuse the soft power cassette of high-end sports to gloss over the ugliness beneath. Despite projecting itself as the enlightened Middle Eastern state, there remains concern over Qatar's approach to human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the jury, respected audience, greetings. It is only with eternal contentment that I appear in front of you on this magnificent stage, which has been the place of many and many debates, and which certainly is for this one. Before digging into today's motion, I would like to express my most sincere and heartfelt apologies in advance to our dearest members of the opposition team for guiding them towards the ultimate truth that may taste better on their tongues, or should I say, for proving how pointless their arguments really are. The World Cup. It is an international football competition between multiple international teams where various countries from all over the world are contemplated to be gathered in one stadium watching the same performance. Therefore, thoughts, ideas, practices, and even ways of the wins are expected to be different. And that is exactly why the World Cup shouldn't abide to local rules. Instead, Qatar should preserve its status as a hosting country. So, by hosting the World Cup, which, by the way, I insist is an international World Cup and not a Qatar Cup, obligations and duties should be assumed under rules that serve the purpose of freedom, to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights. Imposing rules of conduct that retrieve simple rights of freedom will only have a negative impact on the range of distinguishable accepted behaviors that play a big role in one's comfortability, but most importantly, in the spectator's pleasure. I am truly touched to say that it is absolutely deplorable and sad what our Qatar's taken measures regarding simple human rights that revolve around the spectator, different thoughts, ideas, practices, freedom of speech, freedom of expression that revolve around one's comfortability. Many football fans, among whom you guys can be counted, will release the football and display in Qatar, but you, dear opponents, instead of supporting wrong concept that opposes to decent human rights, you should be considering the fact that there are other vital human rights schools to be monitored long before a ball is kicked in the football net. Thank you.
First of all, I think we should be the ones talking about the consequences of those regulations, but I won't bother you with it. My teammate Sumaya will probably make it clear enough. To someone in the society, the thoughts are respected. To someone in the society, the differences are respected. To someone in the society, roots are respected. But to sometimes in the society, a religion is not respected. To sometimes in the society, a culture is not respected. To sometimes in the society, roots are not respected. Dear audience, opponents, greetings. I'd like all of you to imagine yourself home, comfortably sitting on your couch, sipping your hot chocolate in your cozy clothes, under your warm blanket, watching your favorite show. Then, poof, the doorbell rings. My sincerest apologies if I got you dreaming, but I promise, if you keep listening to me, you'll get home happy enough to fulfill this dream, without this annoying last part we're about to get into. You open the door, a visitor. Once in, this same person starts acting a little bit too comfortable. Laying on your bed, looking through your stuff, touching everything, anywhere, everywhere. Bothering, isn't it? Disrespectful, isn't it? You have to put an end to their indecent behavior following logical human thinking. Well, oops, my bad. According to our opponents, you cannot. You have to respect the way they are, their thoughts and freedom. Or else you could simply forbid whatever you think is not suitable at your place for visitors. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to write a story. The place, a non-Islamic country. The main character, Muslims. The disruptive element, freedom. Once upon a time, the World Cup was hosted in this non-Islamic country. People from all around the world, Muslims included, visited. Once there, those same Muslims started holding the Islamic flag or the Quran, praying in the streets, reciting Quranic verses out loud. I'll let you imagine the rational end to my story. Wait, even better, I'll let you imagine the impossibility of this story ever happening. Why? Simply because we respect our country's laws and institutions. Only now Qatar is guilty as charged for setting rules and boundaries to protect its people and their own freedom. Well, if you want to apply your so dearest freedom, even though I do think we have different perspectives about the definition of this word that seems unconfined to you, then at least apply it to every single country in every single aspect, or else we'll be the ones calling you racist, homophobic, and close-minded. Qatar is an independent country with its own laws and constitution, and if we follow your reasoning, every time there's an event in there, Qatar has to review its principles and change her whole constitution from A to Z to meet your foolish expectations of your foolish definition of freedom and respect. Well, in another world, maybe because lack of boundaries invites lack of respect. End of quote. See, dear opponents, the difference between you and us is you believe Qatar is sometimes while we want to make it somebody. Thank you.
I am really sorry if someone troubled your personal space, your bed, your couch. I'm sorry that you felt so disrespected. We can fix that for you. Welcome. Welcome to you, to them, to my teammates, who I cherish for every moment, every glance of victory, every lesson this stage taught us. And beyond all, welcome to the resonation of my voice in every corner of the room. The one that only speaks the truth. The one that used to and will always scream for freedom, for respect, for humanity, for dignity, and for better. I was indeed expecting better from the opposition today. I had hope, but seeing it buried in pure cruelty desolates me. I am truly disappointed to see you being so proud of an obvious lack of humanity. While hosting the World Cup, Qatar should respect the thoughts and freedom of visitors and supporters. A clear and correct statement, yet you don't seem to grasp its meaning. Because if allowed to host an international event, believe it or not, guaranteeing everyone's safety is far from being a disrespect to a country's rules and culture. It is, and I emphasize on that, basic human rights and the very least that could be asked for. Nevertheless, I get that you don't visualize it yet. So I'm going to ask you a favor. I want each and every single one of you to dive into the terrifying world of imagination by my side and see for yourselves the consequences of not respecting one's thoughts and freedom. I am a girl. I may not always dress appropriately, according to you. It might be my hair that's offending you. Maybe the way my shirt is a bit too open today. Let alone yesterday's outfit, I was wearing a crop top and shorts. Total shock, right? Well, while understanding how it could be seen as inconvenient and inappropriate in certain places, such as any important or religious institution even, care to explain how, if I show up in the 20th of November in Qatar, to a World Cup, to a stadium, to watch a game and enjoy my time, I will be denied entry. Care to explain how if I show any form of public intimacy, I will be arrested. Care to explain how if I show any form of homosexuality, it could get me killed. Being shamed, arrested, beaten up, murdered for my thoughts, for my beliefs, for my... Yes?
The crop top and shorts you were wearing yesterday.
Yeah.
Do you think you can wear them here?
No, but this is an important institution, not a stadium. I will be denied entry. Getting shamed, beaten up, arrested, killed for my thoughts, for my freedom, for my beliefs, for being myself. Is that what humanity is advocating? Is that what you're so excited about? Because I've seen you being so passionate, talking and talking complete nonsense, and all I felt was fear. Finally, care to explain how me, as a supporter, go into World Cup, or how these rules, how our deputy leader, care to explain, taking into consideration how our deputy leader clearly explained that as an international supporter attending a World Cup, their rules shouldn't even be applied to me. Also, please, before I go back to listening, can you try to not seem as joyful defending complete nonsense? Thank you.
For as long as I can remember, I have always been quite the dreamer. Whether it be before falling asleep, taking a walk in the early morning, gazing at the star-filled sky while listening to my favorite playlist, or even in class. I would always make up these fake scenarios. Numerous were the things I've dreamt about. I've dreamt about meeting the love of my life in a foreign country during the first snow. I've dreamt about making it to the Great Debates finals. I've dreamt about living in a world where respect could be seen for what it truly is, not just as a means people exploit to camouflage the reality of their irresponsible, selfish behavior. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Respect could organize and put into order the messiest of societies if one only knows how to cherish it, if one only knows how to appreciate its value, if one only understands it first. Because as it seems, people nowadays love to practice the art of blabbering and blithering. They demand respect for their so-called rights when they themselves have never cared to stop and look around them, when they themselves have never cared to respect the rights and freedom of those around them. And when finally a country like Qatar decides to take respect for what it truly is and apply it to our society in its true form, we call it oppression, lack of freedom. Some would even go as far as questioning its right to host the World Cup. Certainly, there were some certain restrictions and the regulations Qatar has said, but they were restricted for a valid reason. For example, banning the fans from consuming alcohol inside the stadium. Yeah?
Care to explain what respect truly is?
What respect truly is? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna come to it in my intervention, so yeah, I'm gonna point it out when I come to it. As I said, from the many restrictions Qatar has set, there was the prohibition of consuming alcohol inside the stadiums. And since you've been talking about consequences, let's take a trip down memory lane and rewind time to 1999, the Scottish Premier League finals, when a drunk fan threw an object so hard that when it struck the referee, it split open the top of his head. And another drunk fan fell from the top tier of the stadium down to the lower one. Not enough? Well, how about 2002, the Rugby Tri Nation Cup between South Africa and New Zealand, when yet another drunk fan tackled the referee, leaving him with a dislocated shoulder and a trip off the field on a stretcher. But if you'd prefer for good times to end up with police officers, arrests, and fans screaming for their lives, running around like chickens with their heads cut off, then yeah, maybe Qatar should respect these so-called rights. You see, even a 7-year-old child is fully aware that the way he acts at home is not going to be similar to the way he should act as a visitor in another person's home. So why is it that fully grown, mentally stable adults seem unable to process such a simple, trivial concept? Why are you making it as if they cannot survive a few days without a public display of affection or waving a certain flag or wearing a certain t-shirt? You still have all your freedom outside the stadiums and in private. And as a being granted logical common sense, it is your duty to refrain from such acts if you are aware that they are disrespectful or make the people around you uncomfortable, and that's my definition of respect. So ladies and gentlemen and dear opponents, it seems to me that you have landed in the deepest abyss of ignorance, and you're digging, looking for I don't know what it is. Is it your logic, your reason? Just rest assured that at the end of the day, the only thing you'll be able to find is the corpse of your common sense. Thank you.
Concerning. Concerning is all I have to say about your interventions. I'm stunned you dared to say lack of respect. I'm almost happy you started to do some self-reflection. Last thing, I don't think you read Qatar's restrictions. The feeling is undescribable, undeniable and highly desirable. The feeling of being once again on this stage that engraved every thrill, every excitement, and every pleasure for the last few months has come again, and this time, better than ever. Dear audience, I have tried. Trust me, I have tried as much as I humanly could not to be overwhelmed with sadness as each and every member of the opposition sanguinely presented their arguments. But I just couldn't. Now, before I go any further, ladies, gentlemen, honorable members of the jury, I hope you're having a delightful day. A state that has a critical background of human rights. A state that claims to have had a government reform where hundreds and thousands of women and immigrants face discrimination in practice and law. A state that unfortunately hides behind the curtains of principles and values for the mere fact of having money. I believe you guessed it, we are in fact talking about the lovely state of Qatar. Now, you would wonder why I'm talking about this when the actual topic is about Qatar respecting freedoms and thoughts of supporters during the World Cup. But the real question is, don't you see it? Don't you see the contradiction? Don't you see the absurdity? How hypocrites can we get to this point? How hypocrite can you get to this point? And trust me, I am not scared of using big words right now, and I beg you not to misunderstand my point, ladies and gentlemen. Respect is a value that Qatar clearly lacks. So if you ask me, as well as every sane person in this room, then yes, Qatar should have some respect for people. Actually, it must have a lot of respect for people. Now, I'm going to have to stop here and ask you a question, dear opposition. Did you, by any chance, read the topic of this debate before coming here and stating arguments that are mainly based on you saying that a state should not respect? And I am not sorry for being selective here. I am putting the emphasis on the word respect. And I am here to say what every mind has been thinking for the past 15 minutes. Your position is absurd. Matter of fact, I will go farther than that and say it is a bit concerning. Very much concerning. You see, the first principle of this school heavily relies on respect. And here you are, lovely dear Larky students, saying that a state should not respect freedoms and thoughts. Where did the respect others, because to them, we are the others, go? Or have you been faking it all the way? Have you been showing a double face every day and you have just unveiled your real one? To be honest, I wouldn't be shocked. That's exactly what Qatar does, so I really don't blame you for defending it at this point. I suppose I found a common thing between you and Qatar. Absolutely no legitimacy. Dear opponents, please, I am not insulting, I am describing. Thereupon, I will sadly have to go back to my place and listen to you try to prove points. Yet the only thing you have proven this evening, dear friends, is that we are slowly but surely losing hope of having a generation that values respect. A generation from whom the values are kept. A generation that would rather die than accept the truth on which they have stepped. To be honest, I don't even know what to expect. And just like that, the counter is on 5. Thank you.
Freedom of expression. What a pretty little lie to let these visitors' discourteous behavior slide. What a fancy way to excuse these tourists shaming a culture. What an inoffensive title to paint these guests sacrilege towards a whole country. Respected members of the jury, dear audience, greetings. Funny how while getting ready this morning, I didn't opt for a crop top, nor did I go for a miniskirt. Why though, you may ask? Bingo! Because I'm not heading to a resort on Miami Beach, nor to a party in Vegas. Indeed, I'm leaving for El Araki International School of Morocco, which magically changes everything. You see now, ladies and gentlemen, butterflies, before coming out of their cocoon, don't ask the climate or environment to change or respect them. Indeed, they develop wings to adjust to their new surroundings and its conditions. On another note, we also have the Little Mermaid, the princessa that didn't oblige the universe.
Your chief stated that there is a valid reason for every restriction, so what valid reason justifies 6 years of prison for raising a flag?
I will come to that later for sure. On another note, we also have the Little Mermaid, the princessa that didn't oblige the universe to respect her shape and let her live on the island with her fins. Instead, she gave up and sacrificed her precious tail and enchanting voice to get legs in order to adapt to her new lifestyle so she could see her knight in shining armor. Then why, dear members of government, should these visitors be an exception? Dear opponents, eagles, let's stop being so tight-sided and narrow-minded and actually see that Qatar isn't holding these potential supporters accountable for their guilty pleasures behind closed doors. Qatar is also not forcing her guests to wear hijab, pray, go to mosques, fast, or convert to Islam. All of that as a sign of respect towards the foreigner's culture. Indeed, however, all Qatar seems to be asking for is once these tourists step outside, they shall abide the law, respect the country's religion, culture, and beliefs. However, once they step out. Once they step outside on a public property in a Muslim territory, they shall abide the law, respect the country's religion, culture, and beliefs in order not to offend the citizens. Then why do members of government blame a country for defending its children's right? Isn't it absurd to accuse it of being disrespectful when it has been nothing but considerate and courteous all along? Why paint Qatar in a bad light? Why paint Qatar in a bad light when all it wanted was to receive the same respect it was radiating towards its tourists and their beliefs? Pardon me, dear members of government, but what you're really seeking out here isn't to grant these invitees respect, but more to incite Qatar to act oblivious towards its culture and ignore its duties and morals as a Muslim community. What a shame. Taking everything into account, dear auditory, members of the government, members of the juries and opponents, let's not forget what a wise fairy once told me. Your freedom ends where mine begins, and your respect ends when it becomes at my respect's costs. And with that being said, do you really still believe that Qatar should respect and allow these tourist derogatory manners in it? Thank you.
First of all, a stadium is no different from a resort. And I don't know about you, dear audience, but I did sense some sort of contradiction in what the leader of opposition said. If, and I quote, my freedom ends where the others start, as you stated, then why does it also, I quote, include aggression? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also appealed by the fact that we are normalizing a state using authoritarian force in order to subdue and bend public freedom, as there is only one rightful and just use of force. Force in the face of oppression, force in the face of vile and unjust acts, force in the defense of the simple and plain rights of liberty. Thank you so much.
To answer the Deputy Prime Minister, we didn't, and Qatar didn't say that she would not respect and protect those visitors. I don't know where did you get that idea. There are 190 countries and 7 billion people on Earth. It is quite clear that many diverse cultures exist. It isn't logical to go to a different country and expect that place to change your whole beliefs and values to just make you feel comfortable. It isn't right. It isn't logical. It doesn't make sense. If you put aside any ego you might have and open up to other people's beliefs and values, the words 99% of problems would, without doubt, be gone. Thank you.
today's motion wasn't just a sign of lack of common sense, I would call that, but it was also an insult to all the effort put in the interest of the spectators' fundamental freedom rights. Therefore, here I am, dear audience, standing in front of you with all the strength that Mother Nature had put within me, listening to nothing but absurdity, having to face nowhere but a reality that is too crucial to digest. Here I am, your audience, standing in front of them with all the power of rage and fire, having to prove what I once thought was not necessarily needed to be proved. And here I am, your audience, standing with all the mightiness my black heels could offer, to defend the one and only right cause my beloved opponents failed to defend. It is truly sad to know that for the sake of your vanity, you were constantly thinking about foolishness, but never fully aware. Unsure, but sure of everything that one shouldn't be sure of. Thank you.
Instead of being emotional and dramatic, give us, and calling our arguments absurd, I would really like you to give us real arguments, because all what you've been doing is being so emotional and so attached to your freedom and respect, and that you haven't defined to us, first of all. And also, to answer your question to my teammate, you know that that law exists right now. So logically, if you go to Qatar, you're not gonna do that. You're simply not gonna raise the flag in order for you to not get in prison for 6 years. Or if you prefer raising it and then you end up in prison, that's maybe something else. But you are aware of that law. They have made it clear enough. So what you have to do is follow it if you want to access the stadium, or else just don't go if you are so attached to your beliefs that much. Thank you.
I am going to sadly have to call your arguments absurd again, because obviously they are. Blank page. While writing my very last intervention of this year's competition, I was thinking, contemplating the topic, and I came to the conclusion that everything that had to be said was said, and all that was left to convince you was common sense. And I am sure that a single look at the topic from our point of view is 1,000 times more reliable than all of the unethical arguments you've been preaching. I am apologizing for putting it like that, but if it's not a vile way of thinking, it's a huge lack of logic. Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It has to be demanded by the oppressed. Martin Luther King. Please abstain from doing the exact opposite. Thank you.
For you, Government Whip, you said that we should first read the regulations. I assure you we did read the regulations, as it seems it is you who hasn't read the regulations, because the Prime Minister talked about immodesty when immodesty wasn't mentioned in any of the official guides that were published by Qatar. Yes, there was a certain guide that was circulating around social media, but an official statement said that it was fake and it contained factually false information, so I would suggest you check the accuracy of the sources you rely on before you come on us. So in all of your arguments, I can't find the disrespect in Qatar's behavior. All I see is Qatar's will to find a place in the middle where the rights of its visitors and supporters would be respected, all while sticking to its beliefs and principles. Thank you.
You just explained how a law works. You didn't give a valid reason. Here you go, Deputy Leader of Opposition. Please don't be too emotional about this. Article 10 of the Human Rights Act states that Everyone has the freedom to expression regardless of borders. Article 47 of Qatar's constitution guarantees freedom of expression and opinion. After stating that, I truly wonder how you can still be so calmly sitting on your chairs, looking like you can still support your position when in reality you can't. You are defending a state, not doing what they promised to do, which is respect thoughts and freedoms. And yeah, before I forget, there is an update about the count I mentioned in my last intervention. The number has gone from 5 to 7. It's what I like to call an arguments counter. I tried doing the same for you, the opposition, but I found 0 arguments to count. I hope you understand. Thank you.
Honorable members of the jury, chairs, audience, welcome. In a couple of weeks, Qatar would be a beautiful mixture of Muslims and tourists. And to be fair, we should balance between both parts' respect. Hence, Qataris shouldn't humiliate, attack, or browbeat tourists for their beliefs. In exchange, these guests should avoid any behavior in public that could jeopardize or offend the country's beliefs. And that is exactly what Qatar is asking for. Then, dear opponents, where's the disrespect you claim to witness? Ladies and gents, be reasonable. Today, it could have been Qatar. Tomorrow, it could be Morocco. So, is this how you really intend to defend your dear roots and culture? If yes, believe me, Morocco has never been more failed and disappointed in its kids. Thank you.
While we're going to wait for the jury's decision, I would like to invite Mr. Yunus to join us for a word.
Hello. You maybe should start by saluting each other. We just salute each other. Just go ahead and no, not like that. Like, shake hands. We've lost this tradition with COVID, actually, so maybe it's about time to. All right. Hope you are all doing well. Thank you for this debate. It was a great debate on both sides. Really enjoyed it personally. Topic is a bit disturbing, to be honest, actually. I've been listening to both arguments on both sides, and I find maybe I would say truths and correct positions in both sides as well. So it's not a thin line to draw between the two positions anyways. However, I always believed personally that when in Rome, you should do as the Romans. So technically, as it has been said, it's not very easy for any country in the whole world to adjust to all the freedoms as they are conceived by all the visitors, obviously. So technically, when we are in a setting, when we are in a country, when we are in, a group of individuals that have some rules that they live by in that particular setting, and we choose to be part of that setting, well, technically we have to abide by the rules of that particular setting. We should not impose our own rules on that particular environment. I mean, this is my own belief anyways. And the world we live in today sees kind of disappearing boundaries, because we don't ask for other people's beliefs to interfere with our own while they do, through internet, through Netflix, through social media. We don't have any boundaries anymore, do we? And this is where, when it's become really important, I believe, that somebody should be straightforward and straight on his shoes and in complete harmony with his own beliefs, based on his culture, on his history, and whatever he chooses to believe in anyways. I mean, it's not because you are born Moroccan that you have to be completely convinced by the rules that are applied in Morocco. You have to understand them, you have to live by them, and then if you don't like them, this is where democracy is very important. You should try to change them through a democratic way, through a democratic procedure, and then if they change the way you want them to change, it's good for you, it's good for the rest of the community, because you have convinced the rest of the community of the justiceness of that particular belief. So nowadays, obviously, and it has always been the case anyways, it's always the rule of the stronger, isn't it? I mean, now it's being applied through the United Nations. You still have the Security Council, 5 countries decide for the whole world. They have the veto right. They can veto any decision anyways, even though if you have more than 100 countries, or more than 150 countries that would vote for any rule, you would have one country of the Security Council that vetoes it, and it wouldn't pass. So think about it. What kind of a democracy is that? How democratic is it? And then again, some rules are decided, and some human rights by United Nations rules are decided on the United Nations, imposed on us as humanity. Beliefs in different countries, especially in the West, especially in the United States, do interfere with our own beliefs through social media again, through Netflix, through TV, through the internet, and then we become like that, you know, how do we call that? Le corbeau qui voulait marcher comme la colombe. D'accord? The girl that wanted to imitate the dove, and he lost his way as well as he didn't learn the dove's way. Anyway, so don't be a crow or a dove, be the eagle you're meant to be, right? All right, thank you very much again for the debate. It was really nice, and I'll let the jury tell you what has been decided.
A few words given.
All right, so thank you very much, dear beloved students. But before I start talking about some of the technicalities of the debate, I would like you again to put your hand together for your friends. Number 2, so kudos for all the people and everybody who has made this learning journey an experience worth living. And congratulations for the immense effort that has been put in order to make this, again, an experience that is beneficial for both the adjudicators, the students as well, and also all the people who have contributed to organizing and also making this occasions. There are a few things that I would like to say concerning the debates, and these are things that you can avoid in future debates. And as you may have noticed, that we focus a lot on disciplinary issues and also respect. And I think you have mentioned this in your debates. So we said that whenever we debate, whenever we talk about and verbalize, and we talk about things that we believe in, we have to respect each other. Because sometimes when we use words like absurd and nonsense and all these words, they become a bit, they're not really appropriate, of course. So we have to avoid them for future debates. Second, in terms of speeches, I think you have noticed that there was a kind of easiness in terms of speech delivery. All the students, with no exception, they have given us a lesson, and that was a very good lesson in the way we have to approach debating and speaking in the presence of a large audience. Because as you may know, when we speak in the presence of a large audience, we feel butterflies in our stomach. So I think people in other places, they pay a fortune, they pay a lot of money in order to perform the way your friends have done. So I think it's a great pleasure. It's a great pleasure to witness such kind of performance. And again, I would like you to put your hand together for their beautiful. So, without further ado, we'd love to give the floor to Mr. Bouskoufou.
Sorry. Hi. Can I just, before you go, hi everyone. I just would like to congratulate all the debaters, the finalists, but also everyone who went on stage last year. More than 70 debaters, they did really well. They learned a lot, debating skills, communication skills, soft skills in general. So I just took the microphone just to announce that we're going to start the new edition of the Eagles Great Debate. We are going to have a meeting next week on Thursday. I will announce all this like next week in classes. So if you have any teams in your classes, go ahead. Try to debate this year. You will never regret it. You will enjoy it. If you have any fears, try to fight it. And then by the end of the year, you will see that you will learn a lot on the stage. So go ahead and debate this year. And good luck for everyone.
One more thing, because thank you for reminding me, because my mistake, I completely forgot. I meant obviously to thank all the professors, obviously, and Mr. Sarih in particular. Please give him a round of applause. I mean, he initiated, why him in particular? Because he initiated the activity, and nevertheless, all the other professors as well, because they're participating actively to the success of the great debates today. I mean, like a few years ago, I would have even imagined in the wildest of my dreams that we would be in this kind of sitting and in this kind of debates. And thanks to you all, this is happening, really happening, and we see our students, we see you flourish, and as Mr. Sarih has said, and Mr. Lebez has said as well, I mean, performing at this level, at your age, is just outstanding, honestly. I mean, when I was your age, I didn't even speak a word in English, you know? And, well, that's true. I mean, maybe a little. But honestly, I mean, to see the level of your performance, it's very overwhelming, and I hope for the best. I mean, I would like to see you debating and defending your own beliefs in 10 years from now. I mean, you would be way much better for certain. And this is nice. This is nice. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon. In my turn, I was really impressed with the performance of our debaters today. They did a good job, and they demonstrated presentation and oracy skills. They also displayed good research and knowledge of the topic and relevance to the subject and quality of arguments. So let's give them a round of applause. Apart from respecting the debating regulations, the debaters managed to discuss this topic calmly, clearly, and competently. There was good teamwork, and the debaters were able to to communicate with each other, even without speaking. So, and also there was something that is worth mentioning, is the fact that the speakers today, as they have always done, they have pushed the barriers higher and higher. And congratulations again for your performance. And so relying on parameters like the appropriateness of the language, content, demeanor, and the style of deliver, speed, tone, we, the jury, today have decided that the winner of today's competition is the first year math class. Congratulations and wish them good luck.
Now please, come on. Now again, even though, now please, I didn't know Mr. Brousseau was going to announce the winner, but I wouldn't have let him to if he did tell me so. I mean, certificates have not been distributed yet, and I need to mention that by tradition in El Araki School, when we reach the final stage as this one, it's, even though maybe the jury might choose a winner, right? For us as the school, both teams are winners and the certificates are exactly the same. So winning today is just a form for the formality of it, I would say. But mention spéciale, as in the French debate as well. But again, as soon as you decide to go on stage, and as soon as you decide to become a debater and to work on your abilities, work on your performance, go beyond your limits, fight your fears and go beyond them, you're already a winner, right? So this is just for the fun. This is why, I mean, and I ask you, out of respect, please, to your friends, to stay till the end of the certificates ceremony so that everybody is here and you give them the round of applause that they really deserve, one by one, when the certificates are done, are given.